Hi. A lot of times when we're die cutting, little issues come up that you think, what am I going to do? So I want to walk you through some of the ones I've encountered and show you some tricks on ways to get around those issues. So the first one is things that may not be quite thick enough. So I have here a low profile die that I'm going to place onto my cutting mat. And I'm going to put my surface that I'm cutting on top of that. Now I happen to know that if I run this through, it's not going to cut it properly. It's not going to cut all the way through, and I'm going to have to go back and snip it with my scissors. I'd rather have a clean cut. So I just go and I experiment with different papers. For example, here's just a sheet of regular old paper. And I have played around and discovered that this is the right depth that I need. So that when I send this through, it's going to cut all the way through my canvas. Now, if you run it through and you find, oh, that didn't cut all the way, just don't pull off what you're using. See, it did cut, so I know that I can lift it up. But if it had not, I could put it down, add another layer to create another shim, run it through again. The key to shimming is don't put something so thick that it breaks your plates. I have done that as well. So you want to slowly build. Start with something thin, add a little bit more to it so that you get that perfect cut, clean every time so you don't have to go back and snip it off. So that's issue number one, shimming. Second thing is, you'll notice that I have this cutting plate that obviously is well loved, and it's starting to get a lovely bend to it. So how do you get around that? When you're cutting with your dies, you want to make sure that you're flipping it every few times, okay? So as it gets warped one way, flip it the other direction. So instead of putting it this way, which is the natural way that I would put it, because I'm thinking, oh, it makes nice contact, I'm going to put it upside down so that the curvature is up. Run it through. It still cuts well, but as I use it in this direction, I'm going to find that it starts to flatten out my cutting plate, okay? And after a while, you do want to replace these cutting plates because they don't make as clean a cuts, but you can make a pretty ugly cutting plate without having a problem. Now, the second thing is, sometimes you'll run it through and you'll see, oh, it didn't cut one side of it. And to get around that, before I ran it through this way. So to get it to cut the other side, if you start on the other end, oftentimes that will give you a better cut. So sometimes when we're loading things into our machines, they don't always cut the same. So if you find that when you've run it through, it didn't cut both sides, then try rotating the whole set of plates to go the other direction. This does require remembering which way you fed it through this first time, or noticing, okay, this side didn't cut, so I'm going to try leading that through first. The pressure on your roller sometimes adjusts depending on how the thickness is. So try switching things around. So again, if it's not cutting through properly, try adding more depth to it using papers to create a shim. If you are getting a curved cutting mat, try putting it the other direction so it will help flatten it. And if your die didn't cut properly the first time, rotate the entire series of plates around and feed it through the different direction. See if that will help with some of the common problems you might run into on occasion when you're die cutting. Have fun creating.